When I was 16, I was a little bit of a hippie. Thrift store cardigan, grandpa's corduroys. So I was going to save the earth. There was a nature preserve in town called Maywood that my friends and I loved. We'd spend a lot of time there. People from the community would go there to hike the marsh and the meadow and the woods. They'd go for bird watching. They'd go just to enjoy the quiet of nature. And adjacent to this preserve was this park and big picnic grounds called Evergreen Park. Every weekend, this park was slamming. People were cooking out, drinking beer, playing frisbee golf, softball, sitting on the hoods of their car, motley crew blaring. So the city and the township get this idea to put a road right through the center of where the preserve meets the park. So naturally, the environmentalists are up in arms. We're talking about habitat degradation, polluted runoff to the wetland, noise pollution. And at 16, my friends and I are leading the front lines. We are attending meetings, we're writing letters, starting petitions and gathering signatures. The nature lovers join on right away. And then it hits me. There are more people who care about this place than just those who share my passion, more than just those who love the meadow and the marsh and the birds and the frogs. And so I hit up Dave's Who's In. So I'm 16, and I talk my way into this tavern. It's about 4 p.m., and I hit up the second shifters and their PBRs, which they are drinking unironically. This is the 90s. And as they throw darts and shoot pool, and eye me skeptically with my hemp necklaces and my gigantic flannel shirt, I ask them about their weekends. I ask them about motley crew and frisbee golf and softball and Evergreen Park. And when I walk out of that tavern, I'm armed with new pages of new signatures and brand new allies who have just made this cause their own. So what I learned from that, and what I want to share with you today, is that we need to redefine our allies. It really is about connection and not competition. The Clean Lakes Alliance is an organization made up of many different groups of people. Businesses, farmers, scientists, government, residents of the greater Madison area. There's a lot that can divide those groups, but one thing we have in common are the lakes. So how do we rally people around a cause? How do we mobilize them to take action? How do we get them to work together when at face value, there can be some pretty divergent, if not competing interests there? When we meet people where they are, we help them see where their story meets ours. So I'd like to tell you a story about a woman named Marilee. When the Clean Lakes Alliance was founded about 4 years ago, one of our co-founders, James, would do these lakeside chats. Someone who lived on the lake would invite him over, they'd invite 4 to 6 of their neighbors, and they'd sit around and talk about the lakes. So Marilee attended one of these chats that was hosted by her neighbor. And they sat and talked about why they love the lakes, how they use the lakes, and they learned a little bit about the threats facing water quality in our lakes. And Marilee was really excited and interested, and she wanted to get involved. Now, she did not have a science background. She was not experienced as an advocate, but she loved the lakes, and she wanted to get involved. So we found a way for her to get involved. Now, Marilee is the chair of the Friends of Clean Lakes. This is the fundraising and friend-raising arm of the Clean Lakes Alliance. She also sits on our executive board of directors and helps put on some of our biggest fundraising events of the year. Now, Marilee is not alone. I look at our citizen water quality monitoring program. And last year we piloted the program, and we had 9 volunteers who would go out to the end of the pier at their home or to the beach that was near where they lived, and they'd take a water sample. This year, the second year, we had 50 volunteers signed up. And that's because the people who participated before brought along their friends and their neighbors, and they said, get involved. No one's asking you to make a drastic change in your life. They're not asking you to take on more than you can handle. They're meeting you where they are, and creating an entry point for you to get involved. So I look at Mary Lee. We didn't need her to be an expert in how to prevent pollution from reaching the lakes. We just needed to create an entry point. We met her where she was, and she's taken us further than we would have gone without her. Another approach that we like to use is a little bit like Ben & Jerry's, but with fewer calories. And that is, it's our ice cream, your flavor. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean that you can stay true to your vision and your mission while creating space for someone to take your idea and make it their own. I mean that we can stay true to the core of who we are, what we're here to do, our focus and where we're headed, while letting a partner do what they do best. So many of you here have probably heard of the Boys and Girls Club of Dane County. They're a phenomenal organization here in town that's serving the youth in this community. They primarily work with a lot of lower income families, and the majority of the kids who are part of the Boys and Girls Club are African American and Latino children. It's a demographic that Clean Lakes Alliance hasn't been working with that much. But Michael, who runs the Boys and Girls Club, is doing a fantastic job there. And we asked him if we could sit down and talk about that place where our stories meet. What we did is we also brought in the owner of a local business in town, Wingrove Boats. So we brought in Tyler and Michael, and we sat together, and what came out of that is this fantastic program we're really excited to see happening this summer, where the kids from the Boys and Girls Club are going to be getting out on the lakes in kayaks, in canoes. They're going to be learning skills for paddling. They're going to be learning about the lakes and what lives in them. We're going to be engaging them and using the lakes as something that can draw us together. So we're letting Michael and Tyler really lead the way here. We're stepping back and letting them do what they do best. Michael runs programs that are supporting youth development, that's skill development, building character. What does Tyler do? He gets people out on the water, teaches them how to paddle, how to be safe, and to have a great time. They're leading the way, and we can sit back and know we're still working towards our mission. Even though we're stepping back a little bit and letting them do this their way, what we get here is the next generation of people in this community who are learning to love the lakes, to understand the lakes, to see the lakes as something that can bring people together. I think that we need to let go of the fear of trying out someone else's flavor. We need to reassure ourselves that we can stay true to our focus and our mission, even when we're playing a supporting role to someone else's lead. And one way that we can do that is by remembering or even considering that you can serve your cause through serving someone else's mission. An example of that, I've got a couple of stories. So one, there's a nonprofit in town that you may have heard of, 100 State, and they are a group of young, innovative, entrepreneurial people who are taking a solution-focused approach to engaging with the community. They're really focused on technology, and they're doing some great things. Well, the Clean Lakes Alliance started to form a relationship with Joe, 100 State, and what's coming out of that is a really exciting partnership with the city of Madison and Dane County as well, where they're going to be producing a first-of-its-kind crowdsourcing app for your smartphone that's going to allow users to input data about water quality and then make it publicly accessible for people. So this is an opportunity for 100 State to shine. They can use their skills, there's space for innovation and creativity. They can pull in their partners and their networks to create this really exciting app. Well, in turn, what that does for us is it gives us a tool to carry out our mission and to work towards our vision, where we're engaging people in the lakes. We're getting them to pay more attention to what's happening with water quality. We're helping them see that they can be a participant in understanding this stuff. And hopefully what it will do is we'll put information out there that can reassure the public that it really is a great day to get out on the lakes. Another benefit is where you see it can just cascade is that what this then does is it provides data that we can then share with our partners at the university who are doing research to try to figure out how these toxic algal blooms form and how they move around the lakes. So by partnering with 100 State, serving their mission by giving them the opportunity to develop this really innovative app, we are meeting our own cause. Another example of working towards your cause through serving someone else's mission is a partnership we had with Dream Bank. So Dream Bank is the outreach and communication arm of American Family Insurance. They've got office space, they have community space up on the Capitol Square, and what they do is they open their doors to the community, invite them in, and ask them to share their dreams. So in the first year that their doors were open, one of the top 3 dreams that emerged from the community, so these are people who come in, participate in Dream Bank's exercises and exhibits, and share their dreams. One of the top 3 dreams that emerged in the first year was clean lakes. So we said to Dream Bank and American Family Insurance, how can we help you serve your mission? How can we help you make the community's dreams come true? That's what they're there to do. So we created a program, a half-day experience where employees of American Family Insurance, participants from the community with Dream Bank, could come and do a lakeshore cleanup day. They're there picking up trash along the lakeshore, interacting with Clean Lakes Alliance staff. The community members from Dream Bank are getting to know the American Family Insurance employees. And what we're doing while we're there is putting in context what that morning, those couple of hours picking up trash, where that fits into the context of this bigger community effort for the lakes. And by serving their mission, we furthered our own cause as well. So this brings me to my final point, and that's that it really is about connection and not competition. What I mean here is that we need to look for opportunities to connect when at first what we see may look like competing interests. So here's why I want to tell you a story about Jeff. Jeff is a dairy farmer in our watershed. What does a dairy farmer have to do with the lakes? Actually, quite a bit. So a little background. One of the biggest threats facing water quality in our lakes is phosphorus. So phosphorus is a nutrient, it's found in manure, it's found in plant matter, and when it ends up in our streams and our waterways and eventually the lakes, what it does is it causes the growth of algae. So research has already shown that 70% or more of the phosphorus that's ending up in our lakes is coming from agricultural areas. So what we could have done is rallied the urban community and pointed the finger at the farmers and said, how are you going to fix this? But it's really hard to be part of the solution when everyone's telling you you're the problem. So instead what we did is we connected. For 2 years, the 2 co-founders of Clean Lakes Alliance, Don and James, they met with the farmers, they built relationships, they sat down with Jeff and with Chuck and with Walter and with Will, and they shared meals and they shared beers, and mostly they listened. They found that place where their stories met. They didn't want to just tackle the problem of phosphorus from manure getting in the lakes. They wanted to understand the story of these farmers so that they could see where their stories meet, so they could see where is the opportunity to connect and do this together, rather than framing this as competing interests where someone's going to win and someone's going to lose. What came from this is this really beautiful and exciting partnership that's actually getting recognition statewide and beyond, and it's the formation of this organization called Yahara Pride Farms. The Yahara River watershed is the name of the watershed that we live in that takes up most of Dane County. So we helped found Yahara Pride Farms. It's the agricultural affiliate organization of the Clean Lakes Alliance, and it's a farmer-led model. It's dairy farmers, hog farmers, cash grain farmers coming together to talk about how conservation practices and impacts on water quality can be built into the structure of the way they run their operations. In doing so, they are setting a peer-to-peer model of taking this message that conservation and water quality does not have to be at odds with running a profitable farming business. So it's been really exciting to see what's happening on the ground there. And the flip side of that is that it's also then our job to work with the urban community to see this is not competing interests with us here in the city and them out there on the farm. We're all part of the same community. And I would ask you to think about that when you're up on the Capitol Square buying your fresh cheese curds, or when you're sitting at the Memorial Union Terrace, having your locally produced ice cream, and you're looking out at the lake and you're thinking about the problem of water quality, whether it's a beautiful clear day or it's a day where there's a nasty green scum of algae, that we're not just thinking, oh, this is about the farmers. Take a look at your ice cream cone. Take a look at your fresh cheese curds you just got. We're in this together. This is what makes our community. It's all of these pieces coming together. And so when we sit down with Jeff and we talk about solutions, it's a lot easier to connect when we removed that idea of competing interests. We have a lot of people talk to us at the Clean Lakes Alliance and say, you guys are everywhere. You're in the paper, on the news, on the tips of the tongues of our neighbors and our friends, you know? And I say, well, that's because it's not we, it's we. This community, urban and agricultural, have really adopted this lake's cause, and they've made it part of their story. In 2011, when we held our first community breakfast for the lakes, there were about 60 to 70 people who attended. In April of 2014, there were almost 700 community members who attended this breakfast to rally around the cause of the lakes. Now, not everybody came for the same reason. Some people are there because they like to fish or swim, kayak, water ski. Others are there because they've devoted their career to water resources and protecting the environment. Others are there because they're running or owning businesses and they want to recruit and retain top talent to this area, and they know Clean Lakes will be a draw. So what we're doing is we're opening up our doors and saying, we don't need to define the role you're going to play here. We want to find that point where we meet and bring you on board. We're not going to Dave's Who's In and preaching to those guys that they need to care about the inherent value of the ecosystem. No, we're finding that point of overlap between what I care about and what you care about. What motivates me? What motivates you? What's my story? What's your story, and where do they meet? I want to know where you're at. What's your flavor? How can I serve your mission? How can we do this by connecting and not competing? We stopped that road, by the way. 20 years later, and the park and the preserve are still there. And so are the bird watchers, and the frisbee golf, and the marsh, and the meadow, and the PBR. And we're going to save these lakes. We're going to do it with this motley crew of businesses, and farmers, and scientists, and government, and me, and you. Unlikely allies connecting for the cause. Thank you.